Hi friends. As many of you might know, Genevieve and I have been preparing to plant a church here in Sacramento for a long time now. But there's always been one question that we've kept coming back to. Who is this church plant for? Who are we trying to reach? Well, on June 6th, we got our answer. After the police killing of George Floyd, protests sprang up all across the country, including right here in Cesar Chavez Park in downtown Sacramento. Thousands of people of all different ages and backgrounds came here to express their pain, their grief, their frustration, and their solidarity. And so we came here to listen as our city spoke, and this is what we heard. We heard people in our city expressing their pain and their hurt. They spoke about a kind of pain that builds up from decades of being treated as if they were something expendable. We heard some people in our city sharing feelings of being overwhelmed and hopeless. I mean, there are so many problems going on in our world right now. A global pandemic, centuries of racism, growing poverty, and there doesn't seem to be a clear path out. People are afraid that things will be like this forever. Some people, we heard, express feelings of guilt. They seem to be asking themselves, how have things gotten this bad? And what have I done to be a part of bringing this about? As we looked around at the thousands of people gathered in protest, all of these emotions and questions were on full display, and we realized that there's only one message that could address all the pain, all of the despair, all of the guilt, and all of the questions that people were bringing. And that's the gospel of Jesus Christ. We realized that these are the people that our church plant is for. Our church plant is for people who need to know that Jesus identifies with their pain and that he can transform their struggle into something beautiful. Our church plant is for people who need to know that Jesus is Lord, and that while the problems we look at going on around us might seem hopelessly overwhelming, God is in control. Our church plant is for people who need to know that Jesus offers forgiveness and grace in exchange for our guilt and our shame. We realized that our city needed a church that could bring this gospel message. After all, 2/3 of people in Sacramento identify as completely non-religious and will not hear this message unless somebody brings it to them. That's why the mission of our church plant is to share the gospel in whatever way we can, whether it's through preaching, through small group Bible studies, or through intentional conversations with friends and neighbors. As a church, we want to seek the life-changing power of the Holy Spirit in every person who walks through the door. The kind of change that takes place through prayer, through worship, through baptism and communion, the changes that we grow into through the practices that our church has handed down from generation to generation. And finally, as a church, we want to seek the shalom of this city, the wholeness, the peace, and justice for our community. We want to do this by looking after the people that the Bible tells us to care for: the poor, the immigrant, the orphan, and the widow. The people on the outskirts of society need to be at the center of our church's focus. Now, we've got some groundwork left to do before we are ready to launch this church plant, and that's where you come in, because we've got long-term plans for this ministry. And in order to set up a solid foundation, we need partners who are willing to lend us support and encouragement for the journey. Part of this looks like financial support from churches, individuals, and institutions who share our heart for the people of Sacramento. If you want to see the gospel make an impact on people's lives in this city, please consider becoming a monthly donor. Please consider supporting what God has called us to do here. And on top of this, we are asking everybody to pray for this church plant. Pray that God will bring the right leaders to help us get things started. Pray that God will bring along the right partners to support us and help keep us going. And pray that God would prepare the hearts of people who do not yet know him and his love for them. Thank you for considering supporting us. God has been incredibly faithful in bringing us to this point, and we look forward to sharing stories with you of what he does in the future. God bless you.